The Lord's voice will come to us with supernatural wisdom and guidance beyond our ability to comprehend. But his means of speaking to us in our situations will often come differently from the way we would prefer, or even in a manner that he has used to speak to others. He will speak to us through his written word, but it won't directly say, move to Alaska in there anywhere.
Even if there's a heat wave, it's still not going to say that.
No.
He will guide us into understanding his truth through his ministers, but they won't typically point to us in the middle of their sermon and say, the Lord wants you all to get hitched. The bushes we're walking past may simply sway in the breeze instead of catching a blaze, and that's probably for the best with how strict arson laws are. But if we're truly listening for his voice and praying with a willingness to hear what he has to say, instead of merely what we want to hear, he has a lot to say through these seemingly common means of communication, such as spending time in biblical study, listening to the voices of those ministers he's gifted with his word, and combining these with our prayer life as we diligently seek to find his voice in all of these common places that we often take for granted.
There was a version of Mario's voice that everyone expected to hear in the Super Mario Brothers movie that didn't show up except in, a small cameo appearance. But that didn't end up having a negative impact on the movie at all. As a matter of fact, the voice acting faded into the background so sufficiently that within minutes it was simply the vehicle that was used to convey the actual story.
Now sure, it wasn't the voice that everyone was expecting or demanding, but it turned out to be exactly what the movie needed. And in the ways that the Lord chooses to answer our prayers, his voice may come to us in a variety of different methods that lack the iconic design of his burning bush example or even a talking donkey. It may come in the stillness of a moment when we're reading a chapter in Psalms for the 100th time, when we suddenly see a verse differently than we've ever seen it before. It may arrive as a confirmation in our spirit while listening to a sermon, but it won't be the situation or the environment that makes his answer remarkable. It will be the very commonness of the circumstances that we are in that will make his direction the star of the story, rather than the means by which it arrived.
Let's not turn our noses up at the way the Lord answers our prayers simply because he didn't send his answer with thunder and trumpets. Sometimes his answer to our prayers for rain comes in the form of a cloud as small as a man's hand.
And while he's still fully capable of answering with fire from heaven, he seems to prefer the intimacy of using a still small voice instead. And just as the very lack of originality in Mario's voice ended up working just fine in the Super Mario Brothers movie to keep the focus on the story being told, the Lord may not write the answer to our prayers in the clouds. He is actually speaking directly to our hearts through his Spirit to remind us of his teachings and guide us in a far better way than any bush, donkey, or walking stick ever could.